Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now let's begin this one. I stood in front of a faded blue door. A stranger's apartment. Ring box in my hand. Heart pounding. 3 months at a construction site. Far from home. I saved every penny for this gift. 11 years of marriage. I pictured myself kneeling. Hannah smiling, like the first day we met. But when the door swung open, she stood there. Hair messy. An oversized shirt. Not mine. The smell of wine, mixed with a man's cologne, spilled into the hallway. Behind her, a tall man with damp hair, a glass of wine in his hand, still cold. His eyes slid past me, like I was at the wrong door. "Honey, what are you doing here?" Her voice, part surprise, part annoyance. I looked at her, then at the shirt. White cotton, slightly wrinkled collar, top 2 buttons undone. A small detail, but it cut deeper than any words could. "I came home early," I said slowly, tightening my grip on the box. "To surprise you." The man set his glass down, walked toward me, silent, calm, close enough for me to know I wasn't welcome. The air turned heavy. I could hear my own heartbeat and the ticking of their clock. I wanted to ask, to shout, but my throat was dry. Hannah folded her arms, leaned on the doorframe. No explanation, no regret. I turned away. Each step down the stairs felt like carrying my whole life. In my pocket, the velvet box pressed cold against my chest. Out in the parking lot, I stopped, opened the box. The diamonds sparkled under the dim yellow light, quietly mocking the dream I'd carried for 11 years. I thought I'd lost everything, until I realized she had underestimated me. My name is Cameron Fuller, 38 years old, construction engineer. My job isn't glamorous. Faded jeans, rolled up sleeves, long days under the sun, or in the cold wind of a work site. I'm used to the smell of cement, the sound of drills, calloused hands. But I love what I do because I know every brick I lay will become a place someone lives in, loves in, and calls home. I met Hannah one autumn afternoon, 12 years ago. She was 25, had just opened a small coffee shop on the corner. It barely fit a few wooden tables, a bar counter, and an old bookshelf. I was working at a site nearby, used to stop in for a black coffee to go. One day, I saw her struggling with a broken outlet. I stopped to fix it. The next day, I put up a new wooden shelf for her. And just like that, from a regular customer to a friend, to something more, we got married 2 years later in a small restaurant. Friends joked, from building the shop to building a home. I still remember her eyes that day, full of trust, full of hope. In the early years, I kept working as an engineer. Hannah ran the shop. I couldn't make coffee, but I could fix anything. The heavy espresso machine, a wobbly chair. One rainy day, I walked in drenched. She handed me a warm towel and a cappuccino with a heart in the foam. She smiled. "Don't you ever let anyone make you cold and wet, except me." I believed her, the way I believe the sun will rise every morning. We didn't have much, but it was enough. At night, she'd count the day's earnings. I'd fix a squeaky chair. Sometimes, she brought me hot coffee at the site, watching me give orders with a proud look in her eyes. Then came an opportunity for out-of-state projects. The pay was better. I thought, if I worked hard for a few years, she'd feel less financial pressure. "Go," she said. "This is a good chance for us." I believed her. Those trips lasted 1 to 3 months. Nights at the site, I ate instant noodles alone. When we video called, the wall behind her was plain white. No coffee machine sounds, no chatter from regulars. I missed those sounds more than her face on the screen. Still, every time I came home, I stopped by the shop first. Had an espresso. Listened to her talk about customers, new beans, a quick-handed barista. But in recent years, little things began to change. Hannah dressed more expensively, even at the shop. Wore a pricey watch I'd never seen before. She'd keep her phone face down. Locked the screen fast when I came close. Business secrets, she'd joke. Last summer, she said she wanted to remodel the shop. I wired a big sum from a job in Florida. She hired a new design company. White brick walls, walnut tables, marble bar top. Strangely, she didn't let me be part of the process. "You're busy on site. I want you to rest when you come home." I nodded, kept it simple. I still believed we were building something together, but that belief was starting to crack. On reopening day, I arrived as Hannah was entertaining guests. She smiled brightly, but when she saw me, just gave a small nod, then turned away. I told myself she was busy, but it felt like I was a stranger who had walked into her party. After that, her schedule grew erratic. Some days, she said the shop closed early because of equipment failure. But when I stopped by, everything worked fine. Some nights, she claimed she had supplier meetings. Came home late, with a faint trace of unfamiliar cologne on her clothes. Once, at the site, I sent her a photo of a blazing orange sunset. She replied, "I wish you were here, so I could lean on your shoulder." I believed her. Believed distance couldn't break us. But the signs kept piling up. Our joint savings account dropped sharply. She explained she had prepaid for a special batch of coffee beans. Expensive, but worth it. I nodded. But something in me felt uneasy. Nights at the site grew longer without her calls. I ate noodles alone, remembering the smell of coffee in her shop, the sound of her laugh when a customer praised her latte art. Everything felt farther away. A few weeks later, I decided to come home early, without telling her. Before heading back, I stopped by the florist, ordered a bouquet of white roses, her favorite. In my bag, a black velvet box, the anniversary ring I'd saved for during 3 months away. I wanted to hand it to her myself, to see the surprise in her eyes, the joy I saw on our wedding day. But when I opened the door to that strange apartment that night, Hannah wasn't the only one who greeted me. That night, rain fell, light and cold. I drove through familiar streets, the scent of white roses on the passenger seat, blending with soft jazz from the radio. In my bag, a black velvet box, the anniversary ring I'd waited 3 months to give her. I planned to stop by the shop first, but when I got there, the lights were off. Door locked. Inside, completely dark. 7 p.m. That shop almost never closed early. A cold ripple ran down my spine. I called Hannah. She picked up after a few rings. "Hey, I'm tied up with something. The shop's closed tonight. I'll see you tomorrow, okay?" Her voice was calm, but in the background, the clink of glasses, faint music, and a deep male laugh. I hung up. Didn't ask, but my hands turned the wheel toward a high-rise downtown, an address I'd once glimpsed on a utility bill mixed in with our papers. I didn't think much of it back then. The elevator opened on the 8th floor, thick carpet in the hallway, warm yellow lights, pretending to be cozy. I stood at 8B. 1, 2, 3 knocks. The door opened a crack. Hannah. Hair loose, slightly messy, an oversized white shirt, not mine. The smell of red wine and a man's cologne spilled out. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, then went steady again. "What are you doing here?" Before I could answer, my eyes caught a black leather jacket draped over the sofa. Next to it, keys to a Porsche. From the kitchen, a tall man stepped out, red wine in hand, cold eyes, a faint smirk. He set the glass down and stood behind Hannah, like a statement. "I came home early," I said slowly, "to surprise you." He gave a short, dry laugh. "You should probably call first, Cameron." In that moment, it felt like all the air in the hallway was sucked away. Hannah crossed her arms. No regret, no explanation, just silence, waiting for me to step back. I did, not out of fear, but because staying any longer would cost me my self-respect. I turned away. The door closed softly behind me, but it hit like a period at the end of a sentence. Down in the parking lot, I opened the velvet box. The diamond caught the yellow light, glittering cold. Back home, I set the roses on the table. Beside them, the coffee cup she'd used that morning, lipstick still on the rim. I touched it. "Cold?" Her words echoed in my head. "Don't you ever let anyone make you cold. Except me." Now, she had chilled me to the bone. The next morning, I was up early. Not because I'd rested, but because I hadn't slept at all. Every time I closed my eyes, last night replayed, clear enough to hear the clink of his glass on the table. The roses still sat on the dining table, a few petals starting to fold. The black velvet box lay open, the diamond cold as a drop of ice. No call, no text, just a silence, so thick it felt physical. I made coffee, sat by the window. It tasted more bitter today. Or maybe my tongue was already coated in bitterness. The sound of the spoon against the cup, soft, but to me, like metal scraping on stone. Near noon, I went to the shop. The door was open, A few customers inside. Hannah stood behind the counter, smiling as if nothing had happened. Light blue dress, hair neatly tied, calm eyes. When she saw me, she paused for just a beat. "What will you have today?" Her voice, light as a passing breeze. I looked her in the eye. "Black coffee." When she set the cup down, her finger brushed the back of my hand. A brief touch, but I felt the tremor. Then she pulled away, like she'd touched fire. On her left wrist, a faint red mark, the kind left by a large man's watch. I drank slowly, eyes scanning the shop. In the corner, a man stood to leave. He left behind a black leather jacket. Hannah walked over, picked it up, handed it to him with a soft smile. The same jacket I'd seen last night. When she returned to the counter, she opened a drawer, placed inside a dark blue gift box, still wrapped. A small card tucked under the ribbon read, "For Friday night?" Strong handwriting. Definitely not mine. I left the shop without a word. As I passed, I heard her on the phone. "Yeah, tonight's fine. Same place as always." Her voice, softer, different from the one she used with me. I sat in my car for a long time. One part of me wanted to drive far away. Another wanted to rip the curtain down and see the truth. That afternoon, I went back to 8B. The door was shut, but on the mat, a small package, addressed to H. Morris. That name had never been part of our story. At sunset, I went home. The roses still there, more wilted now, like the love I'd once cared for. I carried them to the balcony, dropped them in the trash. Petals spun in the cold wind, then disappeared from sight. I thought I'd hit bottom, but the bottom was deeper than I imagined. Thursday night, the wall clock ticked, each sound dry, empty. Hannah still wasn't home. Her last message was only 4 words. "Busy tonight, don't wait." I set the phone down, opened our joint account statement. 3 recent withdrawals, each over $2,000. Note, bean supplier, deposit. But I knew the shop already had a fixed contract. No need for deposits like this. Recipient name, HM Trading. Chi. Like a cold blade at the back of my neck. Ash. Morris. I dug through the desk drawer. At the bottom of a stack of receipts, a bill from the Vesper Hotel. Monday night. Double room. Additional guest. HM. My phone buzzed. "Ben calling." "You holding up." His voice was careful. "I need the truth." "You want to follow her?" "I want to see it myself." I wiped the dust off our wedding photo. 11 years ago. Young. Trusting. Now, every word from Hannah was another brick in the wall between us. The door opened. Hannah stepped in, quiet, like she didn't want to wake anyone. I was already at the table, lamp casting a small circle of light. "You're late." "Busy at the shop," she said, taking off her coat. "This perfume? It's new." She froze. "A gift from a partner." "You're asking too much." "What's his name?" "Liam." "Investor." "Too quick." "Too prepared." I placed the hotel bill on the table. Monday night. The Vesper. "Who were you with?" She glanced at it, then gave a thin smile. "Business partner." Don't take things out of context. The context is, you turned off your phone when I called. You've gone a whole day without answering before. Did I make a scene? The way she flipped it back at me left me silent. This marriage felt more like a chess match than a home. She walked into the bedroom, closed the door. I pulled a chair to her file cabinet. Combination lock. I tried her birthday. The shop's opening date. Nothing. Then I remembered a joke she'd made once. Valentine's Day was the day I fell in love with coffee. I typed 0214. Click. Inside, a thick envelope. Aurora parking garage pass. B327A. And a small USB, labeled fancy machine. I slipped them into my pocket. Closed the cabinet. The sound of a key in the door made my heart jump. But it was just her, coming out for water. I sat back down, pretending to scroll my phone. The next morning, I took 3 days off work. By afternoon, Ben arrived with a telephoto camera. We drove into Aurora's basement. Spot 27A, a charcoal Porsche. Keys still in the ignition. While we watched, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. A photo of my white roses. In front of apartment 8B. Caption: "You're not the only one being lied to." My pulse pounded. Someone was watching me too. 8 L. D. The elevator doors opened. Hannah stepped out. Hair down. Long coat. Phone in hand. A man rose from the passenger seat. The one from that night. He stepped out, lit a cigarette. Friday night, gorgeous, he called. The card in the shop drawer flashed in my mind. For Friday night. I gripped the car door handle. Ben stopped me. Not now. My breath fogged the windshield. Through the haze, I saw their silhouettes in the Porsche. Entwining. Every second I stayed silent. This thing grew, and Friday was coming fast. That night, back home, I sat in front of my laptop. The USB on the table. Small, but heavy as lead in my palm. I took a deep breath. Plugged it in. A folder appeared, full of video files, labeled by date. I opened the first. Low angle. Dim yellow light. Timestamp. Monday, 9:42 p.m. Hannah stood with her back to the camera, phone to her ear. From the back door, a man walked in, slipped his arms around her waist. She didn't flinch. She tilted her head, letting his lips touch her neck. I slammed the laptop shut, as if closing it. Could erase what I'd seen, but it stayed in my head, like ink bleeding slowly into white fabric. I opened it again. This time, a spreadsheet. Lines of strange codes and numbers. One cell highlighted in yellow. Friday, 9 p.m. Direct delivery. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it wasn't meant for daylight. Phone buzzed. Unknown number again. If you want to know who HM is, come to the Vesper tomorrow night. Don't bring her. The dark screen reflected my face. Tired, tense, and afraid. The next morning, Hannah rushed through breakfast. Tight black dress. A man's watch on her wrist. When she bent to tie her shoe, that familiar perfume drifted up. Once I loved her more because of it. Now, it made me turn away. The door shut behind her. I called Ben. Tomorrow night. The Vesper. You sure? If I'm not, I'll never know. The next night, we arrived early. Chose a corner table, with a clear view of the elevator. 8:27 p.m. Oh. The doors opened. Hannah stepped out with him. Liam. They walked close, looked at each other in ways colleagues don't. He carried a black leather bag. Her hand rested on his shoulder. They headed for room 604. We followed. The hallway was long. Yellow light over red carpet. The sound of shoes sinking into it matched the pounding in my ears. I pressed my ear to the door. Her perfume seeped through the gap, mixed with the scent of oak inside. Suddenly, a hotel staff member pushed a cart past, looked at me longer than necessary. I stepped back, pretending to look for someone. Wheels rolled away. Silence dropped. I leaned in again, but from the far end of the hall, a short-haired woman in glasses walked toward me. Phone raised, recording. "You're Cameron? We need to talk," she whispered. I didn't have time to answer. Click! The lock on 604 turned. The door opened slowly. Warm yellow light spilled out. Hannah stood there. Her eyes froze when she saw me. Liam appeared behind her, his hand on the bag's handle. A corner of white cloth peeked out from inside. I didn't know whether to step in or turn away, but the unknown number's message echoed. "Don't let yourself drown." It felt like someone had set a boulder on my chest. With each breath, it got heavier, and I knew if I crossed that threshold, there would be no way back. I don't remember how I breathed in those few seconds. All that remained was the pounding in my chest, and the warm yellow light spilling from room 604. Warm, but like the glow of a trap. Hannah stood in the doorway. Her eyes weren't exactly surprised. It was as if she'd been waiting for this moment. Liam stood behind her, head tilted, a smirk on his lips. The kind worn by someone who believes they've already won. "What are you doing here?" Hannah asked, her voice flat, like she was speaking to a stranger. My eyes went to the bag in Liam's hand. A corner was open. White cloth wrapped around something long and solid. My gut told me this was more important than anything I'd just learned. Behind me, the short-haired woman, the one I'd seen near the coffee shop and at the garage, stepped forward, her phone still recording. "Keep going. I'll explain in a minute," she said, her tone low and firm. I stepped into the room. Hannah's perfume rushed over me, blending with the heavy scent of whiskey. On the table, 2 glasses, lipstick still on the rim. I remembered our wedding night. The same perfume. Back then, it was joy. Now, only bitterness. "You've been following me." Hannah crossed her arms. "I just want the truth," I said, my voice rough, dry. Liam gave a quiet laugh. "There are truths you shouldn't know, Cameron. And there are things I can't not know. Hannah moved to the bag, opened it wide. Inside, tightly packed silver bricks, stacked neatly. I didn't need anyone to tell me what they were. Hannah, my God, this is how you live. Her eyes hardened. You don't understand. The coffee shop's been dead for a long time. This is the only way I can keep it alive, and keep myself alive. Liam cut in, and it makes a hell of a lot more than your stupid cappuccinos. My fists tightened. But before I could react, the short-haired woman pulled out a badge. DA, we've been tracking them for weeks, and you just walked into the middle of our case. You've got two options. Help us, or walk away and forget everything. I looked at Hannah. No pleading in her eyes. No guilt. Only challenge. You gonna help me, or help them, Cameron? Pick one. Because whichever you choose, you'll lose someone. Outside, footsteps in the hallway. The room seemed to shrink around us. The ticking of the clock grew so loud, I could feel each beat in my skin. Hannah's eyes, dark, pulling me into a place with no way out. Liam behind her, arms crossed, the posture of a man who thinks he's untouchable. The DEA agent, camera still up, waiting. Choose, Cameron, Hannah said softly. But each word cut like a blade. Help me, or forget I ever existed. A flash of our wedding night. Hannah in white, her hand in mine, promising we'd face everything together. Now that same hand rested on a bag that could destroy everything we'd built. I asked, my voice low, if I help you, what happens? Her lips tightened. I live. We live. The DEA agent stepped forward. If you help us, she goes to prison. But she gets a chance to start over. If you don't, Liam drags her straight to the bottom. I turned to Liam. He shrugged. You think you're a hero. Here, we only play by one rule. The strong live, the weak die. My fists clenched, heart pounding hard enough to hurt. One step toward Hannah, and I could pull her away from the DEA. One step toward the agent, and I'd slam the door on our past forever. I almost reached for her, but when my eyes met the DEA's, I knew, if I did, I'd drown with her. A knock at the door. Room service. The DEA gave a signal. The door opened a crack. Two plainclothes agents outside. They didn't rush in. They looked at me, waiting for a nod. I took a deep breath. Gave it. They moved instantly. Liam's hands were cuffed. The bag hit the floor, silver packages spilling out, cold and metallic under the yellow light. Hannah stepped back, but didn't run. You've chosen, she said, like a verdict. As the agents read her Miranda rights, she kept her eyes on me. They didn't just say, you betrayed me. They said, you saved me, and you'll never forgive yourself for it. They let her past me. Her perfume brushed by, a final cut into memory. I wanted to reach for her, but my feet were nailed to the floor. The door slammed shut, leaving me alone in the too bright room, the yellow light burning my eyes, and an emptiness swallowing my chest. Room 604 was empty now, but it still carried their traces. Hannah's perfume clung to the walls, to the sheets, and to me, like a stain that would never wash out. The silver bricks lay scattered across the floor. The yellow light from above made them gleam cold and lifeless. I stood there, hands still clenched the way they were when the DEA burst in. No more arguing. No more Hannah's defiant stare. Only silence. Thick, and a sharp ache deep in my chest. Outside the hotel, the night wind hit my face, cold enough to reach the bone. The streets were still loud with horns and traffic, but it felt like I was walking through another world, one where every sound was muffled, and all I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Ben was waiting at the bar across the street. When he saw me, he stood up, worry in his eyes. I sat down, ordered a whiskey. It's done, he asked. It's done, but not the ending I wanted. Ben stayed quiet for a moment, then said, you can hate her, but don't let it consume you. Some things, if you hold on too tight, will cut you. I didn't answer, just emptied my glass. The burn in my throat wasn't enough to chase away the cold inside. Back home, darkness greeted me. On the kitchen table, Hannah's coffee cup still sat there, a faint red mark on the rim, like an unfinished sentence. Her scarf hung over a chair. Underneath, her heels, the ones she wore when she went out. I bent down, picked up my wedding ring from the shelf, planning to put it in a drawer, but it slipped from my fingers, rolled across the wooden floor, and stopped right next to those heels. I stared at it so long, I forgot to breathe. Sitting on the floor, I asked myself, did Hannah ever think of me when she chose this path? Or was I just a chapter she planned to close? Outside, the sky grew lighter. Sunlight slid through the blinds, touching the cold coffee, the lipstick mark, and the ring lying still. I knew I should throw it all away. But when I reached for it, I stopped, because in that moment, I wasn't ready to let go. A knock came late in the afternoon. I opened the door. The DEA woman stood there. No hotel uniform now. Black shirt, hair tied back, eyes steady. "We need to talk, Cameron," she said. Her tone was even, but deliberate. We sat across from each other in the kitchen. Yellow light from above spilled onto the thin file she set on the table. She began, "We found more than expected. Liam will be in for a long time. Hannah could get a reduced sentence if she cooperates." I didn't look at her, just at the paperclip holding the file together. Did she ever think of me when she did all of this? My voice barely above a whisper. The agent was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words. "I can't tell you Hannah's innocent. But in all the data, the messages, the images, there were traces of you, not for business. Just kept." Her words slid into me like a cold needle. I felt my back tense. My hand under the table trembled. "Why tell me this?" I asked. "Because you need to understand. Feelings and choices often run on parallel roads. Forcing them to meet breaks them both." She stood to leave, hand on the door. Then she turned back. "You're still young, Cameron. Don't turn this into a life sentence for yourself." The door closed. I was alone with the file. I didn't open it, maybe because I was afraid it would prove. Hannah had been gone from my life long before I realized it. Night fell. I took my wedding ring out to the balcony. The city below was glowing. Car horns, music from a bar somewhere. I rolled the ring between my fingers, cold against my skin. A breeze carried the smell of roasted coffee from a shop down the street. I closed my eyes. Behind my eyelids, Hannah appeared, smiling the way she did the first morning we met. Before the lies, before room 604. I didn't throw the ring away. I put it in a small wooden box, closed it, placed it on the highest shelf, a place hard to reach, but not impossible, because I know, one day, I'll have to open it, just not today. A month had passed since that night in room 604. The city kept moving. Cars still rushed through intersections. Coffee shops still opened every morning. I still stood behind the counter, like before, but nothing felt the same. Every morning, when I ground the first batch of beans, the rich aroma would rise, and I'd remember Hannah, sitting by the window, holding a latte, extra milk, less sugar, a sprinkle of cinnamon on top. Sometimes, I'd make one just like that, set it on the counter, and let it grow cold. Not for anyone to drink, just to keep a piece of memory alive. Ben still stopped by, sat at the table by the window. We talked less now. One day, he looked at me for a long moment, then said, "Forgiveness isn't for them. It's so you stop staying stuck there." That night, I walked past the park where Hannah once laughed, vanilla ice cream dripping down her hand. September air was cool. Kids ran, chasing each other. Their laughter filled the paths. I sat on an old wooden bench, looked up at the clear night sky. For a moment I wondered, without all that happened, what would we have been? But the question led nowhere. Late that night, I opened the top shelf. The wooden box was still there, silent, like a secret. I lifted the lid. The wedding ring lay still inside, cold metal under the lamp's light. I rolled it between my fingers. That familiar weight traveled up my spine, almost without thinking. I reached for my phone, opened my contacts. My thumb hovered over Hannah. One heartbeat slowed. One more tap, and I locked the screen, closed my eyes. For the first time behind my eyelids, Hannah wasn't standing in the doorway of room 604. She wasn't in handcuffs. She wasn't looking at me like a verdict. She was in the coffee shop. The first day we met, hair messy in the wind, eyes smiling. I put the ring back in the box, closed the lid, returned it to the shelf. This time, it didn't feel like an unhealed wound. It felt like a book, closed. Before bed, I stood on the balcony. The city below glowed bright. A breeze carried the smell of roasted coffee from the shop down the street. Different from before. This time, it didn't make me think of Hannah. It made me think of a morning, still untouched. I grabbed my jacket, headed down the street, and for the first time in a long while, I walked faster, as if toward something I didn't know yet, but wasn't afraid of anymore. This time, I didn't look back.